Okay, and a good day to everyone. And this is the 100th episode of Growing Your Tree of Prosperity. I started this out of a whim in 2025, and within 4 months, we were able to monetize the YouTube channel. And lo and behold, this is my 100th episode, and I've decided to just spend a relaxing amount of time to share with everybody an update on 2026, what I intend to do. I'll talk a little bit about my dividends lifestyle and how I see 2026 is going to unfold for everybody. Okay, and so after this episode 100, I'm going to take a slightly longer break because I want to travel a little bit. I need to carry on and complete the semester for the Polytechnic. So I don't think I can sustain that old rate of 3 videos a week. And even for this current pace where I do a longer video, uh, it's still I need to have something unique to say. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through a consolidation period on this channel where some of the introductory videos might be cleaned up, might be enhanced, especially the video that introduces everybody to my YouTube channel. Okay. Uh, but rest assured that I think after 100 episodes, I know the kind of materials that my viewers generally want. You want discussions on dividends, especially the dividends lifestyle. For some strange reason, people like it when I talk about it. You also like discussions on CPF, and any changes to CPF generally are viewed very favorably by the audience. And of course, useful SGX news, projections on the future, as well as uh, some analysis on how Singapore markets are going to fare. So I think that is the content that works on this channel. I can't really, because I use this to promote my investment training. So I can't really trigger the viewers by talking about some controversial matters. Of course, if opportunity shows up, I would definitely do that. But the financial influencer change is also, I think, seeing a lot more regulation, and actually good news for me, right? People are not so willing to sponsor financial content moving forward, right? Because of what happened last year. And you guys know that for me, I do this to manage my personal brand, so I don't really have a need to have sponsors, right? And that keeps me honest, I guess, and I can talk about um really brutal truths, right, about the finance industry, and maybe we might see a little bit more of that, right, moving forward in 2026, right? Who's there to stop me? Right? Okay. Okay, so let's jump in and talk about dividends lifestyle. And normally every year in January, I will update my lecture notes. And when I do that across all my accounts, I track the dividends I get. Okay, so for quite a while, my dividends in 2024 has seen an all-time low. So in 2024, this is stuck in my training materials. I made about $111,000 for that particular year. And the portfolio is after many years of underperformance, right? So that has not been good. Still, it's a portfolio of about $2.2 million. And the amount that I derive from these four accounts it's about $9,200. Okay, and it's approximately 5%. So this is a dividends-based portfolio. And you can look at this historical slide. The median household income then 3,005 per month. Okay, and I always try to benchmark uh, this portfolio of banks, REITs, business trust against actually buying a piece of real estate like a condominium or HDB and then renting it out to someone else. Okay, and you will find that in most cases, there is a strong advantage to people who invest in our local stock markets, right? And the main reason is our dividends is not taxed when it flows into our bank account. Whereas if you were to rent out a unit, not only do you have to deal with a tenant who can be very grumpy, the tenant can destroy your property, and the amount of rental use that you will get, it's not going to be as high as investment property, and hence it is a fairly convincing argument that dividends investing in the local stock markets is actually quite an attractive thing to do. And of course, if you're trying to pitch it with numbers like this in 2024, it's not very convincing, right? Because it's gone through a very tough time. But I know that, throughout this period, I was able to accumulate these stocks at a fairly cheap price because people were making fun of the Singapore stock market, right? And basically in the world where people are considered gundus or gurus, I largely fell on the side of the gundus, right? We had many years of being the gundu before we had a good year where we can just claim that our portfolio has done better. Okay, but as you can see, I'm approaching the results for 2025 with a lot more humility, and I always believe that when things look very good, right, bad news is just around the corner. All right, so these are the slides that I've been using for the past year, and these slides are going to be phased out after this presentation. Okay, so I've got new slides coming in. Okay, and so I've decided to use artificial intelligence to figure out how much dividends I've collected, and I was able to do this for 6 months because um, the local banks allow me to download 6 months of account data for free. And all I have to do is just push it into AI and have AI go through the statements one by one and highlight the ones where the money came from CDP. Okay. And they are very, and it's really awesome, right? How they could just summarize all the dividends you've collected over the year. Okay, I won't share the actual prompt here. You can figure it out on your own using your own bank statements. Okay, and for July to December, we were averaging about 12,000 a month this time. So the dividends have definitely gone up over the year. As interest rates came down, there is a lot more room for real estate investment trusts to give out more money to the shareholders. All right, so nothing really surprising here. That 2025 is a fairly good year if you've been collecting money. All right, okay, and I've then decided to ask artificial intelligence which are the biggest source of my dividend payouts, and you can clearly see that AIMS APAC REIT, I have held it for maybe during the me REIT days, right? So um, not 2 decades yet. All right, I would say that I've not held it for 2 decades yet, but the amount of dividends I've collected has already exceeded the amount of capital that I paid for the stock. Okay, so and because I've not touched it for many years, I just left it there and waited for it to just generate money for me. It's almost a free read, okay, lying in my portfolio, generating income once every 3 months. Okay, and obviously I put in a lot into DBS when interest rates were about to trend up, right? So DBS became my second source of dividends, all right, for that 6 months, okay. And surprisingly, Valuetronics did very well. It produced a lot of money because I think they were spinning off cash back to the shareholders. Uh, yeah, and that came as a surprise when it was ranked at number three. Okay, and number four, I had ESR REIT, and obviously ESR REIT it's not something that I think the retail investment group they really enjoy. Okay, it's one of those REITs that did quite badly for me, but I've just stubbornly held on to it. I didn't touch it. Okay, and it began this process of swallowing up all my other investments, like I think Soil Bill, it swallowed up Viva. So I had a lot of it, and so it still generates a decent amount of dividends for me. And now, given that the price has recovered, I'm not negative anymore. Okay, yeah, and the rest you can see this is a very conservative kind of portfolio with a very strong emphasis on real estate investment trust. Okay, and this is not like a very logical kind of portfolio. I manage my family wealth over the years for the past 20 decades. We've added, we've subtracted, we've moved stocks around, and I have 60 to 70 different securities producing money at a different time. So it's definitely not as organized, or it's definitely not as deliberate, right, as the kind of portfolios that my students build, right? Because they have an actual model to actually structure a portfolio. okay, and every stock had a reason for existence, okay. But most of the retail investors who's been around for a very long time, in their 50s and 60s and 70s, I think it tends to look more like the kind of portfolio that I have. Okay, right. So the portfolio size has grown. Okay, it's about 2.6 million, and the yield is expected to be about 5.6%. Okay, and still obviously the yield is way higher than if you were to convert this into a property and then you try to rent out the property, right? You can do the sums yourself. Okay, but for the people who are buying real estate and property, it doesn't mean that these people are dumb. Okay, it just means that these people are anticipating capital gains, right? They expect the house to grow in value. And because it is a leverage investment where you borrow money from a bank to buy a piece of property, right? The upside is actually very high. Okay, so it's actually a different thing altogether, right? And I'm discussing with my loved ones that if 2026 turns out to be as good as 2025, I expect Singapore stocks to be fairly valued by the end of 2026. And if that happens and all that, right, it's time to really think about upgrading physical property. Okay, but when the upgrade, we're not collecting rental, we're just upgrading it so that the lease will be long again, and hopefully we move into a location that is more strategic. Yada yada. All right, Singapore dream. Okay, okay. So these are my new slides. Okay, and it's been a good year. We are humble. We are approaching 2026 with a lot of caution. Okay, and I personally can't believe that the performance is going to repeat itself. But if it does, it'll be extremely pleasant. I'll be laughing all the way to the bank, right? But I really don't think that is going to happen. Okay, right. I always believe that bad things always follow good things. Okay. So some of the observations I have from doing this exercise, and the good thing about being an investment trainer is that you're forced to confront your own portfolio as well as the slides. It doesn't make sense for slides uh, not to be updated just because the slides mean that you didn't do well in a previous year. Okay, and I've been through quite a bit, right? The 2007 2008 Great Singapore recession, and I've also gone through the 2020 pandemic. All right, so yeah, I've got plenty of tales of woe. So some of the observations I see is that dividends, first of all, they fluctuate. Okay, you will get a decent year, but there'll be bad years. And if you're very REIT heavy like me, okay, when interest rates go up, it's a very miserable time to invest in it. And so you need to just be able to stomach it. All right, just collect the money, try to reinvest as much of it as you can, and keep your expenses low. Okay, but when interest rates begin to go down again, that is when you are then placed in a very good position, and you can expect a lot of other retail investors. They would move on to like stocks in the US. They would invest in AI, right? And you're one of the fewer people who keep the faith in Singapore, and that's basically it. Okay, and you might see 4 years of disappointment before you get one decent year. Okay, all right. Okay, but we need to put the fluctuations within the right context. Okay, the fluctuations of the dividends that I've collected is low compared to people who pick the volatility of growth stock strategies, right? Markets go down, the market turns against me, sure, right? From 12,000, it goes down to 9,000, okay? And that's life, right? I carry on investing, I carry on going through my life, right? We are disciplined, and I am no longer at the age where I can use money to buy status, right? Because nobody cares about me, right? Nobody cares about 50-something-year-old uncle. Okay, right. The fluctuations are high compared to salaries from paid employment. All right, so you cannot expect your dividend payouts to be as stable as, for example, earning money from your day job. Okay, that's not going to be realistic at all. However, for those people who are stuck on your day jobs, your golden handcuffs, when a retrenchment hits you, right, your salary goes to zero anyway, and you have to find a new job, right? So you really need to understand that I have a lot of students or potential customers who come up to me and they say things like, yeah, dividend also can drop. Capital, also you experience capital losses, right? Do the dividends cover the capital losses? Well, in general cases, when there are capital losses, the capital losses can exceed the dividends that you receive, right? I mean, everything is based on your willpower and the way you structure your life. So that can you hold on to these stocks and have diamond hands and collect a lower amount of money, right? And if you can't, then maybe this method of investment is not for you. All right. Okay. So yeah, so management of your family finances requires a certain amount of discipline. All right. Okay. Yeah. And so in 2025, I didn't fully reinvest all the dividends I collected. Obviously, I had to spend it. I have a five-member household for expenditure, right? There's tuition to pay and all that. Okay, but I did uh, put a little bit of money to prepay my mortgage to maintain my fixed rate loan. Okay, that's very annoying. Sometimes when you want to renew a loan, they say, well, I can I can I take some money from you to prepay the mortgage to show that you're like a financially responsible. Okay, that was dumb, but I was actually quite eager, so I took some money and I placed it to offset my mortgage loan so that I owe the bank a lower amount of money, right? And I obviously lowered the amount that I have to pay on a monthly basis. Okay, and I obviously do a lot to contribute to CPF. If you follow my blog, I put a lot into MediSave because I think that my MediSave is becoming more and more crucial to the family. Members in my family need my MediSave, right? Because uh, uh, it is not even a secret that um, my family relies on default MediShield, right? So I do not have any ISPs, and I absolutely do not regret that decision, right? My mom has gone through cancer, my mom has gone through a stroke, right? Everything we have done in the government hospitals, and we are totally fine with that, right? So yeah, so these are my observations of that exercise. And of course, now it's time to talk a little bit about what I think the future of the STI is going to be. And if you look at our current state on Friday, the STI is 4,744. And the P ratio then, if you observe the ETF, it's about 14.54, right? Fair value, all right? It is not too expensive. A lot of people saying, oh, but DBS has become so high, right? Can I still trust the Singapore markets? It's 14.54, right? The US can be above 25 for prolonged periods of time because there are people who are telling wonderful stories about AI, the Magnificent Seven. It's a very narrative driven kind of market. Singapore is not. Singapore is driven by basically very grumpy old investors who want to collect passive income, and they just want everything to stay the same. All right, the markets are very different. Okay, now I believe personally, and you don't have to agree with me on this, Singapore deserves a premium, right? Good, stable government with policy making that can span multiple decades. And when the government says they want to do something like promote the equity markets, there is a proper plan in place, right? Now, if you believe in that, then you can say that, maybe the PE should be a higher number than 14. A fair value for Singapore, being such an advanced kind of city state, should be 16. Okay, and if you believe in that, then the Straits Times Index fair value would be at about 5,002, right? 5,002. And actually, this is the number that would get me to act, right? I generally wouldn't do very much about my portfolio other than reinvesting my funds. Okay, and I might wake up when the STI reaches 5,002 because I believe that it will transform into a new thing altogether, and we need to find out, where can we make money moving forward, right? It might not be that old traditional method of looking at dividends and value bargains in Singapore, right? At 5,002, who knows? We might be in the cusp of transforming into a growth industry, right? Okay, so at the moment, if you read the media, banks like OCBC believe that we can even reach 5,000, right? Before 2027. But the most exciting prediction is DBS, when they say that the STI can reach 10,000 in 2040. I got some videos on that, and you can check it out on my channel, right? Now, the thing is that I've observed these predictions, right? None of these predictions are guaranteed, okay? And I've even spoken to REIT CEOs who poo-poo these predictions, right? Yeah, I think they should manage their REITs properly and don't be so hasty to shoot down somebody's predictions, right? It's not guaranteed, but sometimes an economist can show you the working, and that to me is where the value comes from, right? You tell me what your prediction is. I'm not so much interested in the outcome. I know that you might have already retired from working in a bank in 2040, right? I'm interested in your working. How do you arrive at the number of 10,000 in 2040? If I like your working, and I think that, it's a very logical way of looking at financial markets, then I'll give you a thumbs up, all right? And I won't hold you liable if your prediction becomes wrong, because they're geopolitical events that could really hurt Singapore, right? And so none of this is ever guaranteed. Okay, but these are the numbers, right? These are the numbers that we're looking at right now. Okay, so what is my own guess? Okay, I think for me, my framework is stocks can go up a little, stocks can go up a lot, stocks can go down a little, stocks can go down a lot. All right. So I think Singapore stocks will go up just a little in 2026. All right. I don't like to make very big, very bold kind of predictions, but it should be up just a little. Okay. That means positive gains in single digit percentages, right? Single digit percentages. Okay. And not counting dividends. So if you structure a 5% dividends and it goes up 6%, you can still get 11% in 2026. Okay, but I think it wouldn't go up a lot. All right. Now, banks won't do as well as in 2025 because interest rates are now lower and their net interest margins are under pressure. So logically, you are buying a bank because the banks have mandated a return of capital to you. And banks are also engaging in a lot of share purchases in the open market, right? So that might be a reason to hold on to your banks. Okay, if you want to buy more banks, then I suggest you pair them up with real estate investment trust. All right. So I don't think banks are the place to be in 2026, but you wouldn't be burned by banks, right? So it's a dilemma for people that love DBS. People just love DBS. Okay. I think REITs will do better in 2026, but the interest rates are slowly bottoming out. The REITs will sort of they will keep cycling their loans, maybe switch over to floating rate loans, or maybe get a lower fixed rate interest rate. So you realize the REITs would have more room to give out more money, all right, when the rents arrive. Okay, so this is what I think. Okay. Now, if you structure a core dividend portfolio and you use the traditional instruments that are what I talk about, your banks, your REITs, your real estate investment trust, and your business trust, right? You're looking at a portfolio that can give you a stable 5 to 6%, right? Can't really change that, okay? So if you want to do exceptionally well in 2026, you have to be the kind of savvy value investor, old school kind of investor, to determine how you can ride the stimulus from MES, right? The Equity Development Program. Okay. If you are just looking for blue chips that give you a high dividend, you're going to have a serious dilemma because currently the highest blue chip yields come from SIA and Thai Beverage, right? And SIA, I think, is facing a lot of competition. Okay, I'm not sure whether you want to park your money in a competitive industry like an airline, right? Or you want to take some political risk and put your money into Thai Beverage. All right, I have a slight preference for Thai Beverage because when people are upset, they drink, right? So, but the problem is, might not be denominated in Singapore dollars when the company earns money. So you need to be very careful, right? So none of these decisions, I would say, are easy to make, right? And I might just put in a little bit just to diversify, all right? Just to diversify and then leave it there and forget about the stock, right? And don't expect fantastic gains moving forward, right? So I think 2026 would not belong to blue chips. It would belong to the SG Next 50 kind of counters, right? And these are satellite portfolio picks, right? So your core produces 5 to 6% dividends, real estate investment trust, banks, blue chips, and there is a satellite portfolio where you have to make some intelligent decisions. What's it going to be? China Sunshine, right? Rubber accelerators, iFast, a fast-growing finance company, right? Or Baustat, right? Baustat is spinning off a real estate investment trust. Not easy to make, all right? These decisions require bottom-up understanding how the company works, doing a SWOT analysis, reading the news. Okay, so I don't think there are easy answers out there. Okay, but for me, a very simple answer is if Singapore blue chips that give 5 to 6% are getting harder to come by, right? We still have Singapore depository receipts. I can buy them, park the stocks in my CDP. I can collect my dividends converted into Singapore dollars from Hong Kong dollar, from Indonesian rupiah, and from Thai baht, right? And I don't have to be very selective or do very deep analysis. If anything gives me 6%, right? It's a blue chip in their own home company, right? I don't see any risk in just taking $10,000 and plonking into it, right? I'll wait for the dividend to come in, then I'll do research. Then I'll do research to see whether, is it a reliable kind of stock to have. Because once it passes the money test, the management is good enough to be able to return money back to the shareholder instead of keeping it for themselves for empire building. It eliminates a lot of red flags, all right? And so so I think this might be the year where you shouldn't ignore Singapore depository receipts, okay? And I'm definitely not doing that. All right. Okay, what do I think is the biggest risk in 2026? I would consider it the pricking of the AI bubble, right? Um, the Magnificent Seven is doing very well right now, okay, but I think people are getting some questions, right? Has AI delivered productivity improvements in the corporate world as promised? Right? I believe it can because I use AI code to generate Python code for me, and the Python code then that gets tweaked to make investment decisions. So I know how powerful AI is, and it's actually solved a lot of engineering problems for me in minutes instead of hours, right? I built a web app. I had problems hosting it remotely on the cloud. AI was able to guide me through it, even though for most of my IT career, I was just a systems administrator followed by a compliance professional, right? So I believe in it. But the thing is, if you talk to your friend about what they use AI for, there are people who say, "Oh, I use AI to predict 4D numbers. I use AI uh to be my girlfriend." Right? Yeah, I think AI is more entertaining than it is useful for most of the human population, right? And when you look at the more older people, like people in their 50s, mid 50s and 60s, the way they use AI, it can be very cringe, yeah, like they would make a picture of themselves with muscles and then share it with all their friends in their 50s. It's like, boy, that's so uncool. Right? Yeah. So I think the majority of the human population would find it difficult to leverage AI to actually make themselves more efficient, right? But of course, some young people who use AI to launch their own business and run a company without employees. I'm waiting for this class of entrepreneurs to arrive, right? I'm still waiting. Okay, and I think that's very cool, right? Gen Z will be very cool if they're able to do this. Okay. So when the AI bubble collapses, I think it would affect stocks in Singapore, and especially if your investments are related to data centers, right? Mapletree Industrial Trust, Capital DC REIT. These are investments that might be hammered really badly if the AI bubble were to collapse. But I don't believe that you should ignore it because there is a lot of growth and you might still be able to collect rent as these companies, some of them would fail, right? And just remember that these industrial REITs may be impacted if something were to happen to the AI bubble, all right? So just be very wary of what I think is the biggest risk item in 2026. But whatever happens to you as a REIT investor will be nothing compared to the people who maybe they are leveraged in the Magnificent Seven. These people are gonna get their ass kicked. Okay, so yeah, so this is something that I think you need to be concerned about. Okay, so what is my action plan for 2026? And it's largely doing nothing. I have been doing the same thing for maybe a decade, and um I have a lot of haters who don't believe in what I do. Okay, but the thing is that my money is my money and it generates money for me, and I don't care if I underperform. Why should people care, right? Yeah. So I don't see the need to disrupt the balance of the dividend stocks in my portfolio, right? I've always had more REITs than banks. Okay. And I think I'm in a good place for 2026. Okay. Right. However, I am very excited about Singapore depository receipts. If anybody from SGX were to follow this video, right? Consider allowing Link REIT in as a Singapore depository receipt, right? It is, I think, the second largest REIT. It is second in size. I think the largest is CICT. Okay, and I would love to own a little bit of that, right? Just to collect some money from our friends in Hong Kong. Okay, and there are a new generation of blue chips that provide a high dividend but might be denominated in a different currency. So they are exposed to a different form of risk, right? So for example, PTTEP is a Thai oil company that generates a decent amount of money. My favorite is obviously Bank of China, but I also have Ping An Insurance. I would love to have more of these companies come in and it's just a wild guess, because of the history with Klopp, we're not seeing Malaysian SDRs yet. Okay, but I think very soon, hopefully we would be more open-minded to get Malaysian blue chips to come over and list on SGX as a SDR. I have a thing for tobacco stocks like British American Tobacco because I believe very strongly that it's a very, very stable stock. And it allows you to diversify from the markets. And you take on a certain amount of legal risk, right? So the returns will always be high. A lot of ethical investors wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. So I would love companies like this, of course, along with companies like Public Bank, right? Which I would love to have as well, right? I'll just buy it and forget about it, right? And I'll just deal with the ringgit fluctuations by, maybe owning more Hong Kong counters or more Singapore stocks. All right. So nothing exciting for 2026. Okay. 2025 turned out to be personally a very exciting year. My mom had a stroke. She recovered. Then I needed somebody to eyeball her. So I cleared one room. I got a tenant in, started getting passive income for my mom. Right. I renewed a rental agreement for some of my properties in Malaysia. So it's a fairly exciting year, and now I can say that there is a decent amount of cash flow above and beyond the dividend portfolio, right? And we are a lot more secure coming in this year. Okay. All right. And what do I intend to do moving forward, right? I'm not really disengaging. I just think that I would rather create a 30-minute video that can hit 1,000 views than to create three 10-minute videos and hit 200 views. And I think the videos that do the deep dives, which I benefited a lot personally and have a few very loyal fans, they didn't test very well, right? When I was doing the 100 episodes. So I need to change that format, right? I also, actually, I'm doing this using CapCuts, and I haven't really explored all the various features of CapCuts. And given that I'm an extrovert, I really need to attend some kind of content creators course. I don't know what course is good for me. If you've attended one, you like it a lot, please put it on the comments and I'll check it out. I really want to do this properly, okay? Explore things like TikTok or maybe Instagram, right? So I think I really need to go back to school to do this, okay? Yeah, and obviously I'll be using dividends and some skills future to do it, all right? Yeah, so hopefully the material will improve, right? I basically monetize this channel using just PowerPoint and an editor that I don't really know how to use. Okay, so I think in January and February there are some major collaborations I have with channels like the Financial Coconut. I look forward to seeing you guys on those channels because those channels give me very strong leverage, right? I could produce a video and I could get, for example, 18,000. So you will see some immediately, I think, in the months of January or February. So you see a little bit more of me. Okay, while I go back and I'll take a short little break to really contemplate what I'm going to do with this channel. And I'm also open to suggestions from folks that have been fans and you have some idea of what I'm going to do next. Let me know. And if you are a fan, you have a channel, you want to collaborate with me, you want me to show up on your YouTube video, I actually do better when I work with other people because I do know my material is very hardcore, very mathematical, with a lot of graphs and all that, right? So when I work with another human being, that person would ask me very human questions that I would then attempt to answer. And I think generally I do much better when I collaborate with other people. So just let me know if you want to collaborate with me. Okay, and I guess that's it for episode 100. I hope you've enjoyed the 100 videos that I built for you. Go in and go and look for something that might be relevant to your financial situation. Okay, do subscribe to my channel. It's not ending. I'm just taking a break. Okay, and then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do next. Um, if you want to listen to my life story and know how the FIRE movement works, Google ERM intro, take the first link. Then I will see you live on the Dr. Well preview where I talk about the early retirement masterclass. Okay, and that's it. Have a great 2026, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.